Welcome to Half 2-4. Today, in this episode, London Arsenal is preparing a third major assault on Newcastle captain Bruno Guimarães. Jurgen Klopp has revealed insane behind-the-scenes details of an attempt to sign Kylian Mbappe. Also today, we will dissect how Catalan Barcelona is cheekily trying to drive down the price for Karim Adeyemi to snap him up for a steal, while Manchester United is finalizing the transfer of Andrey Santos for £50 million sterling. We discuss all this and much more right now. Former Liverpool head coach Jurgen Klopp has disclosed wild behind-the-scenes details regarding the pursuit of Kylian Mbappe. The German strategist shared an intriguing and amusing anecdote illustrating how clubs operate behind closed doors to win over a footballer and his family, and the extraordinary lengths the Merseyside club was prepared to go to secure the young Frenchman. We flew from Blackpool to Nice. In Nice, the entire Mbappe family boarded a private jet with 5 rooms. We truly gave it everything we had. Then we flew in circles, conversing with the family, enjoying delicious food. We were not supposed to be seen. We just kept flying in circles. It was fantastic. And then he moved to Paris. These airborne maneuvers took place in the summer of 2017, back when the 18-year-old Mbappe was tearing European football apart in a Monaco shirt. At that time, Liverpool attempted to hijack the generation's premier talent, but Qatari billions wrapped up the deal more swiftly. That very summer, the French forward moved to PSG on a loan deal with a mandatory purchase option for a stratospheric €180 million, becoming the most expensive teenager in world football history. While Klopp reminisces about the past, Kylian Mbappe himself has climbed to the top spot in the Ballon d'Or contender rankings on the Polymarket platform. Currently, his chances are rated at 28%, whereas Harry Kane has slipped to second place with 25%. Third place is held by Ousmane Dembélé at 15%, while Lionel Messi rounds out the top 4 with 13%. Such statistics raise the question of whether a single month of a major tournament completely eclipses the achievements of an entire club campaign. Madrid Real with Mbappe failed in almost everything on both the domestic and European fronts. Although the Frenchman finished as the top goal scorer in La Liga and outpaced Kane in the Champions League by 1 goal, it was Munich Bayern that knocked Los Blancos out of the competition. Meanwhile, Harry Kane enjoyed an absolutely anomalous and historic campaign, netting 61 goals for Bayern across all competitions and 11 goals for England, becoming only the second player in football history after Lionel Messi to breach the 70-goal milestone in a single season. And after such a performance, Harry is not going to receive the Ballon d'Or? Yes, Mbappe is undeniably brilliant, especially at this World Cup. But a phenomenal season like the one Kane put together simply must be rewarded. Over 70 goals in a season, folks, is truly out of this world. Nevertheless, the ongoing World Cup in America traditionally dictates its own harsh terms, and success at the global showpiece carries immense weight. By the way, under certain scenarios, England and France could very well collide in the final of this World Forum, turning it into not just a battle for the planet's ultimate trophy, but a direct head-to-head showdown for the Ballon d'Or. Let us know in the comments who you think deserves the accolade, more Kylian Mbappe for his World Cup heroics or Harry Kane for his astronomical 72 goals this season. The saga involving Aurélien Tchouaméni's potential switch to Old Trafford is completely dead and buried. The French defensive midfielder is staying put at the Santiago Bernabeu and has already agreed a new long-term contract with Real, running all the way until June 2031. Insiders from RMC Sport have confirmed that all the details are finalized, but the most fascinating aspect here is the backroom scheming of the agents and the financial calculus that Madrid Real fell for. Tchouaméni's previous salary hovered around €12.5 million, which was before taxes. Since the tax rate in Spain swallows up a hefty 50% for elite footballers, Aurélien took home roughly €6 million net. Now, according to journalist Jose Felix Diaz, his new salary will reach €9 million net. For Real, this player will now cost close to €18 million annually, meaning the Frenchman has engineered a magnificent pay rise for himself. This case is a textbook example of agents weaponizing the media for their own gain. The blueprint was executed flawlessly. First, a leak is planted through Spanish sources claiming that Manchester United is offering 100 million euros for the midfielder and promising him the world. A massive media storm erupts around Tchouaméni. Florentino Perez begins to panic, and barely 24 hours later, the announcement drops. Tchouaméni extends contract with Real Madrid. The agents simply capitalized on United's genuine shortage of defensive midfielders to spook Perez and extract a more lucrative contract for their client. Jose Mourinho also played a massive role in this story. The Special One instantly vetoed any hints of selling the Frenchman, as he views him as one of the cornerstone leaders of the revamped squad and an ironclad destroyer in his setup. Mourinho is absolutely delighted with this extension. And what about Manchester United themselves? The Red Devils have wrapped up the transfer of 22-year-old Brazilian midfielder Andrey Santos from Chelsea. The footballer successfully completed his medical examination for the Mancunian club, and the teams have signed all the necessary paperwork for a transfer package valued at £50 million sterling. The player will put pen to paper on a long-term contract running until June 2031, which includes an option to extend for a further campaign. Andrey Santos himself pushed for the move and personally requested the Chelsea hierarchy to let him leave, as he views United as the ideal stepping stone for his career development. The Ineos-led club laid the groundwork for this switch well in advance. The initial 2 meetings with the players' representatives took place back in February and March. The financial structure of the deal dictates that the Mancunians will pay £48 million sterling up front, with an additional £2 million arriving in performance-related bonuses. Furthermore, Chelsea will retain a 10% sell-on clause from any future transfer of the Brazilian. It is a rather intriguing yet risky piece of business, and one question remains: can the young Brazilian establish himself in the starting 11 in Manchester? Turkish Fenerbahce has entered the final stretch of negotiations for a blockbuster transfer of 24-year-old Olympique Marseille forward Mason Greenwood. The Istanbul club has submitted an official proposal to the French side and fully agreed personal terms with the English forwards camp. Greenwood has greenlit the move to Turkey and is prepared to sign a 4-year deal valid until June 2030. The financial terms of the contract look incredibly lucrative, as the player will pocket around 10 million euros per year net at his new club. Currently, the Fenerbahce bosses are engaged in active, direct talks with the management of Marseille. The total transfer package will amount to roughly 42 million euros, including various add-ons, which brings the bid incredibly close to Olympique's initial financial demands. Meanwhile, the Turkish side is simultaneously negotiating with Manchester United. Since the Mancunians secured a 40% sell-on clause when the player moved to France 2 years ago, Fenerbahce is carefully separating the financial shares for both clubs. Thanks to this deal structure, Marseille is guaranteed to receive around 30 million euros net, while the remaining funds will cover the obligations to the English giants. Marseille views this sale as a financial necessity, as clearing the wage bill will help the club execute a sweeping squad overhaul. Despite serious interest from Atletico Madrid and Roma, Greenwood chose the Istanbul project because 10 million a year is 10 million a year. The forward leaves France as a talisman, having scored 48 goals over 2 seasons in an Olympique shirt. Spanish tactician Xabi Alonso has completed his first day as the head coach of Chelsea at the club's training ground in Cobham. The club's media platform published the maiden interview with the new manager, who has signed a 4-year contract. Alonso clearly outlined his demands regarding dressing room discipline and shared his tactical vision for the upcoming campaign. The new Blues boss immediately laid down a strict condition for the players. Being part of this great club is a massive privilege. We have magnificent challenges ahead of us. You cannot hide anything or give less than 100% on the pitch. Everything must be for the team. Hard work is an absolute non-negotiable requirement. I will not tolerate laziness. The club's infrastructure is superb, but it needs to be given a soul and a clear objective. My task is to bring the right energy and forge human connections with the boys. When players feel good, they perform well. Alonso emphasized that he accepted the London hierarchy's offer largely due to the high quality of the existing squad. He plans to implement a vertical, dominant style of football with aggressive pressing and considers his main objective to be restoring the synergy between the Stamford Bridge stands and the pitch. Let us know in the comments whether you believe in Xabi Alonso's success in London and whether he can guide Chelsea to a Premier League title. Folks, if you have watched down to this point, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. While you are hitting that subscribe button, we move right along. London Arsenal is launching its third official assault in the transfer market as they attempt to secure Newcastle captain Bruno Guimarães. According to insider Fabrizio Romano, Gunners head coach Mikel Arteta is personally driving this deal and demanding that management finalize the capture of the Magpies' leader. The Londoners have already suffered 2 consecutive rejections from Newcastle. First, the Magpies' bosses turned down an opening bid of £55 million sterling and subsequently rejected an improved package worth £65 million. According to sources, Arsenal is currently preparing a fresh official inquiry, a breakthrough in talks, and the catalyst for the deal could be a financial offer ranging between 65 and 90 million pounds sterling, which would compel Newcastle to enter direct dialogue. Last week, the 28-year-old Brazilian midfielder held a direct conversation with the Newcastle board, during which he clearly stated his desire to move to the Emirates. At the same time, Bruno emphasized that he has no intention of going on strike or artificially engineering issues for the club, leaving the final outcome entirely in the hands of both teams. Newcastle is prepared to fight for Bruno until the bitter end, as the continuous drain of talent is turning into a chronic trend. The club recently sold Sandro Tonali to Tottenham for £100 million, Sterling and Anthony Gordon to Barcelona for €80 million. Also recall the controversial departure of Alexander Isak to Liverpool last year for £125 million. This means Newcastle is systematically losing its pivotal players, and following such a fire sale, it will be exceptionally difficult for the team to challenge for top spots in the Premier League. It appears the Magpies have decisively committed to a path of total reconstruction and a youth movement. The club has already agreed the transfer of 20-year-old Freiburg and Switzerland national team central midfielder Johan Manzambi for €60 million, beating Aston Villa to his signature. Alongside him, the squad has been bolstered by left-winger Bazumana Touré from Hoffenheim for €47 million, 18-year-old midfielder Sean Sturr from Ajax for £23.5 million sterling, and 20-year-old goalkeeper Ewan Jowan from Reims, for whom they paid €21.5 million. Write in the comments what fee Arsenal should pay for Bruno Guimarães and whether the Brazilian can become the central general for the Gunners. 33-year-old Belgian forward Romelu Lukaku has found himself among the primary candidates for an exit from the Neapolitan club. The Napoli hierarchy, led by new head coach Massimiliano Allegri, is eager to sell the attacker to significantly trim the wage bill. The stellar Belgian's annual salary sits at €12.5 million, which has become a severe financial burden on the club's budget, especially in light of his severe injury. Last season in Serie A, the forward managed just 7 appearances and scored 1 goal due to injury setbacks, completely losing his place in the starting lineup. The leading contender for the footballer's signature is Istanbul-based Besiktas. The club, under the guidance of Vincenzo Italiano, is searching for powerful reinforcements in the attacking line after negotiations for Dusan Vlahovic stalled. Before opening formal bids, the Turkish side meticulously reviewed the player's latest medical reports provided by Napoli and Belgium national team doctors, after which the medical staff greenlit the transfer. Direct dialogue is currently underway between the clubs regarding the compensation fee. The Italians have set a price tag of €10 million, which precisely matches the forward's book value. Besiktas is attempting to slash that price in half and has offered €5 million, so the parties are searching for a financial compromise. Fenerbahce had also shown some interest in the situation, but the Istanbul Giants are currently occupied with wrapping up a record-breaking deal for Mason Greenwood, allowing Besiktas to forge ahead in the negotiation process. A heavy argument for the Turks was Romelu's performance at the World Cup, where he regained sharp form and scored 3 goals in 5 matches. I reckon Lukaku will make some serious noise in Turkey, as he is still in pretty decent shape. Catalan Barcelona has shifted into decisive action in the transfer market and submitted its opening official financial bid to Borussia Dortmund for 24-year-old German winger Karim Adeyemi. The Blaugrana hierarchy, led by Deco, is acting with great pragmatism and has set an initial price tag of 20 million euros. Well, Barca certainly do not lack audacity. 20 million for a player of Adeyemi's caliber is a bold opening move. But the Catalans are well aware that the player has exactly 1 year remaining on his contract, which runs until June 2027. And he has flatly refused to sign an extension with the Black and Yellows. Since this represents the final opportunity for the Germans to cash in, the Spanish giants are attempting to drive the price down as much as possible. As expected, Borussia Dortmund considers the 20 million euro sum an undervaluation. The club management wants to recoup at least the 33 million euros they originally paid to Salzburg, and the Germans' initial financial expectations sit around 40 million euros. However, Borussia, under the stewardship of Niko Kovac, is determined to sell Adeyemi this summer because he completely lost his spot in the starting 11 during the second half of the campaign and even missed out on the World Cup. The footballer himself has already fully agreed personal terms on a 5-year contract with Barcelona. Italian Napoli had approached his representatives, but Karim issued an ultimatum stating he wishes to play exclusively under Hansi Flick, who knows the winger's attributes inside out from their time together with the Germany national team. This acquisition became viable for the Catalans thanks to securing a fresh 210 million euro loan and the anticipated sale of Rafinha to Saudi Arabia. Crucially, the potential arrival of the German has zero bearing on the pursuit of Julian Alvarez, who remains the club's primary transfer target for the center-forward position following the departure of Robert Lewandowski. Official negotiations are ongoing as both sides attempt to find a middle ground. What can you say Barca is operating in their signature, perhaps slightly calculating style? First agreeing terms with the player, and then having that player pressure his club to secure a move to Catalonia. But as the saying goes, why not? They can afford to behave this way. Atletico Madrid has finalized the deal to sign 27-year-old Danish central midfielder Morten Hjulmand from Sporting Lisbon. The parties have agreed on absolutely all terms of the transfer and have already begun exchanging the necessary paperwork. The compensation fee for the Portuguese club's captain will consist of a 40 million euro fixed payment alongside additional performance-related bonuses in Spain. The Danish midfielder has already undergone his medical examination in Madrid and signed his personal contract. Morten Hjulmand agreed a long-term 5-year contract with the Colchoneros, which will remain valid until June 2031. Atletico head coach Diego Simeone personally insisted on the Dane's transfer, which comes as no surprise. Cholo adores this profile of footballer who simply suffocates everything around him. Granted, Morten Hjulmand is a more defensively minded player, but for Atletico, that is exactly what the doctor ordered. The Colchoneros, by the way, have reinforced themselves rather nicely this summer, having already snapped up Grimaldo, Lee Kangin, and now Morten Hjulmand. Not bad, I tell you. Not bad at all. Turin Juventus has commenced a sweeping squad overhaul under the stewardship of Luciano Spalletti and is actively working on 2 high-profile transfers. The Italian giant's primary target for the goalkeeper position is Aston Villa's 33-year-old Argentine shot stopper Emiliano Martinez. As of July 10th, 2026, the Turin side has already agreed personal terms on a 2-year contract with the reigning World Cup champions camp, which will run until June 2028 with a weekly wage of £80,000 sterling. Negotiations between the clubs have reached a decisive stage. Aston Villa initially demanded a substantial compensation fee for their star man, who is currently performing at the World Cup in America. But Juventus is closing in on a compromise. The anticipated final package will amount to £11 million sterling, with $8 million comprising the fixed fee and the remainder structured as bonuses. In the event that talks collapse, Turin directors Giovanni Carnevali and Ricky Massara are keeping a ready-made plan B on the table in the form of Guglielmo Vicario from Tottenham. Simultaneously, Juventus has opened official bidding to sign 27-year-old French forward Randal Kolo Muani from PSG. The forward has expressed an absolute desire to return to Turin, where he previously enjoyed a highly successful loan spell, and is demanding that the Parisians let him leave. The French club's hierarchy has placed the player on the transfer list, but has already rejected Juventus's opening offer, which sat at over 30 million euros. The Parisians want to recoup at least 40 million euros for the forward due to interest from Premier League clubs. The Turin side is preparing an improved financial bid as they look to wrap up the deal as quickly as possible. Thank you all for watching, folks, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to leave a like and subscribe.